Okay. About then. After that, you can off the video. I just want to see you guys are there for a while. Okay. All right. Who wants to off the video? Off the video. You want to sleep? Don't snore too loud. Okay. It's supposed to be about development. Third year kan, so everybody is still at home, is it? Korang off campus lagi kan?
We are currently in quarantine, doctor. Dekat UIA.
Dekat UIA lah, okay. Okay. So we're gonna talk about developmental milestones today. So basically, the aim is so that you guys know what's normal and what's not normal. Because if any part of the development is not normal, the child will require assessment. Okay. Now, all the milestones you can actually get from your books, but in order not to confuse yourself, choose one book and stick to it, because usually what will happen is that you'll run by about 1 or 2 months, sometimes the milestones. So if you try to memorize like 2 or 3 books at the same time, you're going to get confused. So choose one book and stick to that book. Okay. Let's go. Okay, so developmental milestones, development is actually divided into 4. There's gross motor, there's fine motor and vision, there's language, hearing, and there's social behavior and play, right? So usually what happens is that when we assess milestones, we tend to go at certain age ranges. So usually what they can do at 6 weeks, what they can do at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. Once you pass 2 years old, then you go yearly, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Because the things that a child should be able to do develops very much. There's more to develop during the early years rather than the later, right? That's why after 2 years, it goes by yearly instead, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Now, first off, we'll start off with the primitive reflexes. So primitive reflexes are involuntary motor responses which originates in the brainstem. So they are present after birth in early childhood development. Usually it's thought to facilitate survival. Like the rooting reflex is when you touch the baby's cheek and the baby will turn towards the side that's touched. So that helps the baby figure out that there's a teat there, and they're supposed to turn the head so that they can drink the milk, right? So several reflexes are important in the assessment of newborns and young infants. An example would be if you do a Morose reflex, which you'll see after this. If it's asymmetrical, it might mean there's a neurological problem, right? Something might have happened at birth. Or if these reflexes persist beyond a certain period of time, also it might show that there is a problem with neurodevelopment later on. So most of them will disappear in the first year of life. Some of them by 6 months, some of them by 9 months. But by and large, by the time the child is about 1 year old, most of the reflexes will have disappeared. So these are some of the examples. There'll be sucking and rooting reflex. Okay, there'll be a palmar grasp. Basically, put something here, and then the kid will grasp like that. Stepping reflex, asymmetric tonic neck reflex, Morose reflex, and plantar reflexes. We're gonna watch a few videos that show off the reflexes. Okay. Let's see. I think. No audio, just subtitles. Okay, so these are some of the primitive reflexes. Most of the time, what we do is that we'll check for these reflexes on the babies after they are born. So it's part of the newborn check. Okay, obviously you check for rooting and sucking. If it's not good, then obviously the child's going to have problems with feeding, isn't it? So the child needs to be investigated and observed. Things like morose, where you get the asymmetric, it should be bilateral and symmetrical, the movement. But if it's not symmetrical, then you are worried about whether there's any solar plexus, brachial plexus injury or not. Yep. And okay, sorry, the computer hangs for a while. And I think it's hanging again.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good, no, perfect.
Hello everyone, welcome to Pediatrics by Dr. Anand, and today's topic of choice is neonatology. And you can see some wonderful reflex over here. Any idea what is this reflex showing the baby? When I'm suspending the head of the baby, something is happening. Baby is opening hands and kind of crying. What is this? What is this reflex? It is nothing but Morose reflex. Okay, that is the first point. Very important Morose reflex you know to need to know. So this is a very basic question they ask you in NEET PG also and in MBBS also everywhere. So point number one, what are the components of Morose reflex? Number one, when you suspend the head of the baby down, what happens? There is a symmetric, very important, symmetric abduction and extension of the upper limbs. Number one, with opening of the hands. Can you see the opening of the hands? Yes or no? Yes, this one, this one. Can you see that? I'll repeat again. The components of Morose are number one, symmetric abduction and extension of upper limbs with opening of the hands followed by flexion and protection. And the third is the baby cries. So these are the basic important. Repeat again. The Morose reflex have number one, symmetric.
Hey guys, I think the computer hang again. I tell you what, I'll just present the slides and then I'll give Yasin, is it? Yasin is the group leader, is it?
Yes.
Then
Yes,
I'll give Yasin a list of the YouTube videos that you can watch, okay? Because I think the computer's lagging, isn't it?
yeah, it's leaking.
Yeah, let me get out of the computer first, if I can. Okay, but cannot, mommy have to present. Okay, you just give me a minute.
Okay, guys, we're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see the slides. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Okay.
It's
Let's
okay.
see.
We're familiar.
So, yeah. Okay, so later I'll just let you guys have a list of videos to watch. So basically, just a few videos on developmental assessments later on, how to do developmental assessments, and then just this one or this reflexes. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to break it down to, I think it's easier for us to break it down from 0 to 1 year, then 1 year to 5 years, okay? And we're going to go through the red flags. What are red flags? We're going to go through just a brief list of developmental delays and then developmental assessment, which is maybe the videos that I want to show you later on. Anyway, from 6 weeks to 1 year. So we go by the categories of development. So it's usually gross motor, right? And then you go fine motor, language and hearing goes together, and then social skills. Now, gross motor is whenever it's easier in terms of development to study progression, meaning you study horizontally. If you look at the table, you study it horizontally, meaning you go from if it's an alphabet kind of thing, you go A, B, C, D, E. Because if you know what D is, then you already know that the kid can do C. And then when you assess, you just need to go upwards, D, E, F, G. Right? It's kind of like if the kid is already walking, then you know that you don't need to test the child for sitting, right? Because it's a given that the child would have sat before the child started walking. So gross motor is caudal from head to toe. So what happens is that they gain head control, then they gain frontal control, then they are able to bear weight, then they'll start to stand, start to walk, start to run, right? So at 6 weeks, movements are symmetrical, okay? It holds the baby will hold the head up temporarily. So you pull the child by the arms, right? From a lying down position, you pull the child by the arms. What will happen is that the head will fall, will be able to sustain a little while, then the knee will fall back. Okay. So that's 6 weeks. At 3 months, if you put the child in a prone position, they can lift their head a little bit and the shoulders a little bit, but not so much as pushing themselves up off the mat with their arms, just lifting the head and also the shoulders. Okay, when you put to sit, there will be little or no head left. At 6 months, the head control should be complete. So if you put the child up and you hold the child in the sitting position, the child should be able to keep the head quite straight and also be able to turn and look around. Okay. And if you put the child in a sitting position, they'll sit with support. So this is what you call sit with a rounded back. So if you look at the way that the child sitting, the child's body will be in a C shape. Okay, and then they'll be able to bear weight. Bear weight meaning if you hold the child up, right, by the body below the armpits, and you put the feet right onto the ground, you'll be able to feel that the child is able to push off its own body weight. 9 months, they sit unsupported, usually in a tripod position. So the legs will be in kind of like an inverted triangle. So that will be a tripod position. Some of the babies will start to crawl. Some babies don't crawl. They say we go to walking. So those babies are called bottom shufflers. At 1 year, they'll be able to pull themselves up into a standing position. They'll start to walk. Okay. Now with fine motor, fine motor and vision. Fine motor and vision goes together because we kind of need to be able to see something before you can grab at something. So at 6 weeks, they'll start to fix and follow. So usually they respond to faces. That's part of social also. They respond to faces and then they'll be able to track the face about the mommy or daddy's face about 90 degrees, right? Or usually when you do an assessment, what you do is you use the red ball in your kit and then you run it across the child's field of vision. They should be able to look about 90 degrees. At 3 months, they'll realize that they have hands, right? So they start to look at the hands a bit. They start to reach and grasp. So it's about 3 months, 4 months or so, they start to reach and grasp. So they'll start to have what is called a palmar grasp. So if you have a palmar grasp, usually, if you have a big thing, right, and then the child will reach at it with the whole palm like that. Okay, 6 months palmar grasp still, 7 months they start to transfer. 9 months pincer. Pincer is when they are able to take up small little things in between their thumb and their forefinger. At 1 year, mature pincer, and then they have object permanence. Object permanence meaning if, let's say you're playing with the child, and then you take that toy and you hide it under a blanket, they'll look for the object. They know that that object is under that blanket. Or if you're playing with the child and the toy drops, they'll be able to track the toy and know that the toy is dropping, right? So start pointing also. And if you give them if they get hold of a crayon or a piece of pencil, they might start making marks on the paper. Language and hearing, 6 weeks they start to steal or count to sound. At 3 months, squeal with delight, so they're laughing, they start to giggle a bit. 6 months, they turn to sound, startles to noise. Start babbling at 9 months, you can do the distraction test. The distraction test is just roughly to check whether their hearing is intact. So you need 2 people. The person who's testing the hearing should be standing in front of the child. Then be another person behind the child. So what happens is that the person behind the child, while the person in front of the child is playing with the child, the person behind the child would ring a bell either on the right side or left side. If the child responds to the sound, what happens is that they'll either turn or their eyes will start to look at where the sound is coming from. 9 months understands no. At 1 year, usually they have their first words, okay? With first words with meaning. So meaning, Baba actually means dad, not some random person or everything under the sun. Baba. Mama actually means mom. So when you ask for history, be careful if the mother is saying that the child is like saying Papa, Mama, Mama, Mama. You must distinguish whether that's actually just babbling or whether it's actually a word which actually means dad or mom, right? That's the point. Now, social, at about 6 weeks, they'll have social smile. So if you smile at the baby will smile back at you. Okay? Between that and about 6 months, they start to laugh, they start to squeal. About 7 months, 9 months, they start to have stranger anxiety. So if they see somebody that they don't know, then they'll be more wary, right? 9 months, bye-bye. About 1 year, bye-bye. Peekaboo, can drink from a cup, can put things in cup. Okay. Okay, now what I was talking about palmar grasp. Okay, palmar grasp, you need something big, right? You need something not so big, something kind of big like that. So a palmar grasp would be this. Okay, a pincer would be this. Okay, so if you do a palmar grasp, if you hold the thing in front of the child, they'll be doing it this way, right? Sometimes around about 8 months or so, 9 months, they might have inferior. Inferior meaning they go like that. It looks like they're going a palmar, but then they keep it 2 fingers. If you want to test for pincer, you need something small. Definitely this is too big. Something small would be a raisin, okay, or a small M&M. But usually we tend not to give them M&Ms because at that age also M&Ms, hard candy, they might choke on it if they put it in their mouth. If you use the bead, make sure that the bead is attached to a string, right? So your bead goes here, the string goes down here, so that if they pull at the bead, you can, and it looks like they're going to put it into their mouth, you can straight away pull the lid away, right? Because it's choking hazard. So pincer will be this. Okay. Distraction test will be a person behind. So either the person will ring the bell on this side or on this side. So the response, either the baby will look, right? Sometimes it's not looking, sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's just the eye movement. You can see that a child quiet down for a while and then they just flip their eye on the side where there's sound. Okay, just a rough test of whether the child's hearing is okay or not. Any questions so far?
Doctor.
Yep.
A question.
Yeah.
How do you test for the stranger anxiety? Because the baby could be, they can cry whenever they want. So how do you test for stranger anxiety?
You don't test for stranger anxiety. Number one, it is a developmental assessment. Okay, stranger anxiety is also what's the word for it? It's also personality dependent, isn't it? But in general, when you approach the child, you look at the child, whether the child is very scared of you or wary of you. A lot of the social aspects of development, a lot of it comes from history taking. So most of the time, if it's like a short case, right, the tendency is for you not to get, can you assess the social development of this child? Because if you're going to properly assess the social development of a child, it takes multiple visits to the doctor and very, very long appointments. But what you can comment on is whether generally the child is a friendly child, or generally the child seems a bit wary in the beginning, but after playing with the child, he's able to respond well. That kind of thing, right? Later on, if you watch the videos, you see that developmental assessment is mainly observation. So what you do is mainly you just explain what you see. Okay? Does that answer you? Umar,
Right.
go ask the question just now.
Yes, me,
Okay.
Umar. Thank you.
Okay. Kalau ada soalan, if you guys have a question, say your name first. But it's very difficult in this situation. Someone I'm using the phone, so okay. Okay, let's go on with the slides. Yeah? Now, so we are done with about up to 1 year. Now we're going to go up to 5 years. So 1 year, growth motor, 18 months. Now, 18 months, the child must be able to walk unsupported, right? So any child who cannot walk by 18 months unsupported it's considered a red flag. So the child will require appointment and a proper assessment with a pediatrician. You might get confused later on when you do your rehab medicine, because I think the rehab medicine doctors tell you that it's okay up to 2 years, but that is from the perspective of a rehab doctor, right? So from a perspective of a pediatrician, almost all of the kids should be able to walk unsupported by 18 months. Okay. Now at 2 years, they start to run. Okay, jump with 2 feet. 3 years, tricycle, jump with 1 foot. 4 years, hops on 1 foot. 5 years, skips, jumping over small obstacles. Now, usually with gross motor, just memorize the general idea of it, meaning head control, 6 weeks, right? Sit unsupported, sit supported, 6 months with a rounded back. 9 months, sit unsupported tripod. 1 year, able to pull to stand, able to stand on both feet, start to cruise. 18 months must be able to walk, right? 2 years must be running, right? After that, you just kind of remember can go upstairs, first 2 feet at a time. That means one step, both using 2 feet. And then after that, they go the way adults do, one up, okay? And then tricycle, obviously, three wheels, right? So tricycle will be 3 years, right? Then hop 2 feet, jump on 2 feet, hop on 1 foot. After that, they'll start to skate, right? So you just learn it in general terms that way. Now, fine motor is when you do a developmental assessment is when you start to you can use a pen. There's 2 components to it. Either you use first you either play with blocks, right? And then after that you test whether they can scribble, they can draw, they can write, not, right? So fine motor, scribbling, drawing, they follow a set pattern. Now this is important. This is why I tell you that it's important for you guys to remember in terms of progression rather than remember 2 years old scribble, 3 years old circle, 4 years old cross, like that. Because if you know that the child can do a cross, most likely the child can already do a circle. You don't need to backtrack and try to get the child to do a circle again. So what happens is that first about 18 months they start scribbling. So they hold the pen, and then they'll scribble it back and forth, right? Immature grip. After that, they start to doodle, genuine scribbling. Later I'll get a thing for you. Okay, so the first one will be is the first little scratches yang cakar ayam kat tengah tu, the back and forth scribbling. That's back and forth scribbling. So the circle, that is considered doodling lah, basically. Okay. After that, then you test them on shapes. So these are the shapes that they should be able to do. So 2 years is a straight line. They'll be able to copy a straight line. 3 years, a circle. About roughly between 3 to 4 years, a cross. 4 years will be a square, right? So 4 sides, 4 years old. That's how you remember. 5 years, a triangle. 6 years will be the diamond, right? So this is what it is. So scribble spontaneously. The tower later copies a line. Do a circle. After that, do a cross. Okay. Now, if you are talking about towers, block building. Okay, wait. Block building, they'll start off with 3 blocks. Okay, so 3, 6, 9. So you kind of remember in terms of 3, 6, 9, starting at 18 months, 3 blocks, 2 years, multiples of 3 lah in completed years, right? So 2 years times 3 will be 6. At 3 years, 3 times 3 will be 9, right? After that, an 8 block step and a 10 block step. Okay. So now this is what I mean when you're doing fine motor. So you guys can see it, right? The ones at the bottom, the pictures at the bottom are the way they grip the pencil. So the first one is the palmar graph line. Okay. The second one will be the immature graph, and then the last one will be the tripod. So that's the way it should be. Now, most kids nowadays, because they go to kindergarten quite early, they get forced to 3, 6, 5, 9, 10. Okay. Oh, one more. Wait. Most kids, because they get sent to kindergarten early nowadays, so they kind of get forced to hold the pencil very much early in life, right? But if you leave them to their own devices, the mature grip to hold the pen, the way the adults hold, is only by about like 5 or 6 years only. Then they start to develop that. Okay. Now, okay. Now, so what happens with a kid is that 18 months they start to scribble. So usually this is what you call this. This is how they hold it, right? After that, they hold it like that. Then after that, only like that, right? So this is scribbling back and forth. So roughly about 18 months, 2 years old, then they start to do like that. So scribbling back and forth, right? Doodling would be doodle lah, doodle all you want, circle. Okay? Now, just remember that they start at 2, right? So they start at 2. So it's this first, then this, then this, then this, right? Then this. Now, learn it this way, progression. Don't need to memorize that this is 2, this is 3, this is 3.5, this is 4, this is 5. Yes, you memorize that later, right? Because if you remember this first, when you're doing a developmental assessment, if your kid, you just ask him to draw a house or anything, right? And he's already drawing this, drawing the square, you know that most likely he can do this, right? So all you need to do is go upwards, right? So for example, if the child is 4 years old, right? And you say, come, let's draw. And before you can tell him what to draw, he already drew you a square. That means he's okay lah, he's up to age, isn't it? Because basically what we want to know is whether he's up to age or not. It doesn't matter if he's advanced for his age, right? But it does matter if he's delayed. So if he's 4 years old and before you ask him to do anything by himself, he already started drawing a square, then you know that he's up to age, right? But let's say he's 4 years old, you know he's supposed to be able to do a square, right? And you start off with a square. You start off with a square. And then he cannot do it. So you know that you are supposed to go backwards when you assess. So square, oh, okay, you cannot do that. So let's try this. If this one cannot, let's try this, right? So if you learn progression, it's easier for you to go up and down along the scale. If you do a circle, this paper is too small. You need a bigger paper, right? And you draw a bigger circle. The ends of the circle must meet, right? So this is not counted, right? That is not counted. It has to be like that, or some, and at least an approximation, at least like that is still okay. But you have to make sure that the ends meet. Okay. Blocks, multiples of 3 in completed years. So they start blocks at 18 months. So it's like that first, right? So that will be 3, right? Then it will be 6. Okay. After that, it will be 9. This is what they mean by a bridge. Make sure that there's a hole in the middle. So when you ask the child to do a bridge, when you ask the child to make a bridge, you must make sure, see, there's a hole for the car to go through. Choo-choo, vroom, vroom, isn't it? Make sure that it's bridge. If the child does this, this is not a bridge, okay? So it must be, okay? This is a 6 steps block. 6 block steps. Sorry. This is a 10 block step. Okay.
Doctor, this is Hassana speaking here.
Yeah.
So like, let's say the bridge earlier, they have to be able to make that like space in between on their own. Like they have to be able to understand that there should be a gap between the two blocks down there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So
they should be able to. Yeah. So.
Like we cannot show. Sorry, no. I mean, like we cannot show them how it's done, basically. Like they should do it on their own.
No. When you you don't tell them to build a bridge. No, what you do is you don't tell them to build a bridge. What you do is, okay, let's ask somebody to cameo for what? Wait,
Okay, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Okay, what you do is, he is 9. Imagine he's 3 years old. Okay, what you do is, okay, can you do this? Okay, Mr. Advance has done it. Now, what we usually do is that, obviously wrong age group, right? What you usually do is sometimes you need to play with them. Let's play with blocks, right? So what you can do is you can get them to stack. Right? Well, let's see who can stack the highest. So usually what the kid would do is that the kid will continue stacking. That's how far you can see whether they can stack up to 9. You don't actually tell them to stack up to 9. What you usually do is this. Come, let's see who can stack the highest. Make a game out of it, right? Make a game out of it, and then after that, what you can do is get the kid to so they are happy. So that is for them the happy part of it. So that is part of the playing part of it. So most of the time when we do it that way, you'll be happy with it. Now you see this? Okay, go. Over there. Excuse me, don't talk like a baby.
Okay.
Okay, so for with powers, you don't not done that. Final block. We don't need that final block. Can you please come here? Okay. So usually with powers, that's what you do. You kind of make it a game. Let's see who can build the highest. Right? Now with the bridge, you actually have to show it to them. With the bridge, you actually have to show it to them. So Chonghan, can you do this, please? And then they do, yay, very good. Choo-choo. Very good. That's usually what you do. You show it to them and then you do it back to you, right? But usually what you are not supposed to show it to them, right? Ask them to look at it, then you take it away, then they have to do it. Okay? If they cannot do it that way, then only you leave it there for them to copy. All right?
I see.
First time you try will be you doing it this way. Okay, you ask the kid, can you do this? Right, and then you take it away. And then the kid. Congratulations, you're 3 years old. And then they'll do it, right? Okay?
Okay, I understood. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So because when you play with towers, usually the kids are roughly around 2 to 3 years old. So when you play with blocks, they're usually around 2 to 3 years old. 2 to 3 to 4 years old. So usually that you can only get them to do things if you're playing with it, right? That's why I say most of the time the tower, what you do is you make it into competition. Let's see who can make the highest, right? You have your own stack. Let's see who can make the highest. So that will already give you an indication of how high they can stack, right? Specifically, the bridge, you have to show it to them, take it away, ask them to do it. If they cannot do it without the example in front of them, then only you use it in front of them, right? Same thing for the 6 block steps and the 10 block steps. Okay. Pen, you just give them, whenever you are done with something, make sure you keep them away. If not, the kid will be distracted, then you take out the other thing. Okay, pen also same thing. First, you just let them have the pen, see however they're holding it, let them scribble all they want, and then only you ask them to draw specifically whether you want a circle, you want a square, you want a triangle.
Sorry, doctor, are you presenting? Because we cannot hear you.
Doctor, we can hear you.
I think you just muted yourself just now.
Okay, now then?
Yeah, now okay.
Yes, yes.
Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, language. 18 months, 20 words, up to 20 word vocab. Then after that, at 2 years, 2 word phrases. So nak makan, nak air, pergi, nak baring, pergi situ. Right. So those are 2 word phrases. Don't confuse yourself with 2 syllable words. Right. Sometimes people get confused. 2 syllable words will be words with 2 suku kata, right? Ayam, itik. Those are things. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about 2 word phrases. So nak air, nak makan, pergi sana, nak baring, nak tidur. Those are things, right? So any kid, now a lot of the times, any kid who presents with speech delay, you also be worried about the child being on the autism spectrum, right? But the problem is that a lot of people, especially if it's pertaining to a boy, they might say that boys speak later than girls. Never mind lah, the kid looks normal. But to me, it's that if once you've detected that there's a speech delay, whether it's just an isolated speech delay, right, or whether the child is part of a spectrum, or whether there's something else that's the problem, it's important to get the child a hearing assessment, and important to refer the child to a speech therapist early, right? Because early intervention shows better results for the kid. If the child only has an isolated speech delay and the child has actually went to the speech therapy, it doesn't hurt, right? But if the child is on the autism spectrum disorder and people keep on pushing it back, saying, never mind, he's just a late talker, he's just a late talker, that won't help the child, right? So if the child by 2 years old doesn't speak in 2 word phrases, please get the child hearing assessment and refer to the speech therapist. And if the child has any other developmental problems, make sure that child sees a pediatrician, especially if the child is on the autism spectrum, because the spectrum is the spectrum. You have a mild, and you have somebody who is severely affected. So that if the kid is on the milder end of the spectrum, a lot of people will just brush it off and say, no lah, I think the child is just speaking late. I mean, whatever it is, if the child has a delayed speech, just refer the child to whoever's necessary, okay? Rather than waiting later on when the child is 3 years old, then only you want to refer and assess. Now, at 3 years, they can count to 10. Count to 10 by rote, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not that they actually know that if you give them 3 blocks, that's 3. All right, it's basically by memory, they know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. 2 colors. So colors, usually what happens in terms of development that you learn primary colors first. So primary colors be red, yellow, and blue. After that, then you learn the secondary colors. So there will be the purple, the orange, and the green, right? Finally, around 5 or 6 years old, they learn black and white. Now, kids nowadays usually learn colors very much earlier because of kindergarten and also because of lots of, I think, educational videos on YouTube lah. But if you leave them be, that is what they're supposed to know. First, the primary colors, so red, yellow, and blue, then orange, green, and purple, then finally black and white. So if the child is 4 years old and the child already knows black and white, so most likely he already knows his first, secondary, and primary colors. Okay. Also, like prepositions. First thing they'll learn is above and below, in, out, above, below, front, back, the final one be in between. So if the child already knows in between, obviously the child already knows above and below, right? So you don't need to backtrack when you're doing another assessment. Okay. Now social, 18 months, they can feed themselves with a spoon and they mimic their household with the mother. If they see the mother vacuuming every day, then they also might play as if they are vacuuming the real vacuum lah. Okay. Around 2 years, they start toilet training, can remove their clothes. Parallel play. Parallel play, that means they play alongside the child, another child, not that they play together with the child. 3 years, they can share, they can have make-believe play. So dressing up, I'm a pirate, you know, I'm a fireman. Okay. 4 years, creative play. So playhouse, take turns, they can dress themselves well, right? By about 3 years, they should be both dry by day and night. But nowadays, I think a lot of people, they put their children in diapers for a bit too long. So the toilet training might be a bit delayed nowadays. We kind of notice. Okay. Any questions about this right now? Okay. Now, what I wanted to say about playing creative play is this. First, they start off by playing, by literally playing with something. So if it's a toy car, so if it's like this is a bus, right? So first they start off with literally seeing that this is a bus. The bus goes vroom, 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 right? After that, they develop to creative play. So they can substitute, right? So they can substitute as in this is a bus rather than a block. Say, oh, I'm imagining that this is a bus. So this is a bus, the bus is going vroom, 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 right? Now, kids on the spectrum have a problem with this because obviously this is not a bus, right? This is a block. Why is this a bus? So kids on spectrum will have a problem with this type of substitution, right? A bus is a bus. Why is this a bus? So first off, they start out with this, vroom, vroom, vroom. Then they start with this. This is also a bus, vroom, 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 vroom. So that's imaginative. Okay. Any questions?
So far, so good, Doctor.
Sorry?
So far,
Okay.
it's good. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Where was I?
Development of child. Ooh, crossword puzzle.
Okay. So we're going to go on to red flag. Dr. Mosat, you tengah kan? Okay. Another half an hour. Red flags. Red flags is what happens if a child doesn't do something by a certain time. So he or she will need evaluation. Includes plateauing and regression. So plateauing, that means the child reaches a certain milestone and never improves upon that, right? So maybe the child can develop until the child is crawling and then never learn to walk, right? The child is able to say single words and then is not able to progress to making sentences. Okay. Regression would be the child being able to do a certain thing and then they lose the ability to do it. So if the child was previously already running and walking, then suddenly one fine day, or whether it's a progression, whether it's a slow progression or an acute progression, suddenly cannot walk or suddenly just only sitting around and unable to get up. So that's a regression. Okay, so these are some of the red flags that you encounter at certain ages at birth. So if there's an asymmetric Morose reflex, right?
Excuse me, sorry, doctor. Can you present your screen first? Actually, we cannot see the slides. Present your screen. Sorry.
I didn't present it. I thought I did. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
You don't know this one. Can you guys see?
No,
Can you
yeah.
not now? Yeah.
Cannot.
Okay.
You cannot see.
Cannot.
Yeah. Cannot see.
Tak ada ke? Ada.
Tak ada lagi, doktor.
Tak ada. Ya.
Okay. Yep. Nampak dah.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, nothing on the slide. Just now you heard about plateauing and regression, right? So plateauing, they achieve a milestone and never get any better. Regression means they achieve something and then after that they lose whatever ability they have. So they were able to talk, then after that they start to be quiet and start not talking, right? So these are some of the red flags. So at birth, asymmetric Morose reflex, where it might be a brachial plexus injury because of shoulder dystocia. If a child has a failed hearing assessment, every baby that is born while the child is still in the hospital will get a hearing assessment before they leave the hospital, okay? 3 months, if the child has no head control, no smile. 6 months, if they still have their primitive reflexes, the Morose, the Babinski's, the rooting, the sucking, the thing that we're talking about. If the child is still fisting. So roughly just now when we went through the development, the child start to notice their hands and they start to reach out about 3 to 4 months, right? So if that is the time when their fist will start to open and close, open and close, open and close. So if at 6 months they are still keeping their fist, their hands mainly in a fisting position, so that is really indicating that something may be wrong. Okay, hand preference doesn't come before the age of earliest or so 18 months. So if the child only uses the right side or only uses the left side, then the child needs to be evaluated. So the child might have had something like a neonatal stroke. Okay, if the child has minimal response to people or noise, might be a hearing problem. Might be a very severe autism kind of thing, even though it's very early to detect. 9 months, if the child is not weight bearing. 12 months not sitting, no words. 18 months not walking, mouthing, drooling. 24 months, with less than 5 words, the child is not interactive. 36 months, 3 years old, not interactive, no 2 words phrases. 5 years is when the child gets picked up for school problems, so things like dyslexia, right? Things like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? Those they start picking up when they're in the school year. Now these are just a list of causes for developmental delay. Okay, it's not in any sort of order here, but when you go through your textbooks, try to decide for yourself how you want to categorize, whether you want to categorize in terms of global developmental delay and the isolated areas of development, or whether you want to categorize it based on age group, right? Most of the time you categorize based on whether if it's a global developmental delay, whether it's isolated speech delay, whether it's the causes for isolated gross motor delay. Okay. So if it's global, usually things like abuse, malnutrition, cerebral palsy can be a global delay, can just be an isolated motor delay, right? IEMs, inherited inborn errors of metabolism, usually those are global. Trisomy 21 Down syndrome, those are usually global, right? Kids with structural abnormality of the brain is usually a global developmental delay. You get things like SMA, which is spinal muscular atrophy. That is more of gross motor delay, right? Speech delay can be due to autism, can be due to hearing problems, right? Now, a developmental assessment is needed to determine whether a child's development is within a normal range. If not, the degree of abnormality and possible causes are assessed. So you have to be systematic but flexible. Have fun. All skills will overlap, which is true, right? For example, in block building, if you you are testing mainly fine motor, yes, but also you need gross motor in it, isn't it? And you need fine motor. You need to be able to see the block. You need to be able to see the block and be able to place the block on top of another block, right? You need to be able to understand what the person is trying to get you to do. So it's yeah. Okay, we are supposed to be watching YouTube videos. Let's see whether we can do that. Any questions to ask or not? No?
Doctor?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Tasnim. I have one question. So during the short case, the examination is solely on the child, or we can ask some questions to the parents?
Okay, if it's a short case, there's a few ways you can do it. You can either number one, we give you the age of the child. Can you tell me whether the child is development is appropriate for age, right? Number two, you can either get a child, say this child was born premature at 32 weeks. The child is now 2 years old. Sorry, yeah. No. Either we can give you the age and ask you whether the child is appropriate for that age, or we can just give you a child and say, can you tell me what is his developmental age, right? And then usually what happens is that you don't get tested on all the aspects of development. Usually it's just one part, either it's gross motor or fine motor. Social, very rarely, because social is difficult, depends on the mood of the child. If it's things like social and speech, right, most of the time you can ask history, because it's very difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult to get the child to talk to you within 10 minutes. If it's things like gross motor, then obviously you have to show rather than ask the mother. Okay. I think we can probably share the YouTube video. Let's see. Just watch one and then we wrap up, because I think let's just try and see whether the sound comes up. Wait,
Okay, let's just try and see, okay? Can I get sound? Can you guys see? Oh, I mean,
We can see, but
Katerina,
Can you
my
guys see?
name's Emma. I'm one of the doctors. Is this your
yeah,
mum that you've got
we can
with you
see,
behind you? Is that your mum? Is it
and we
okay
can
with
hear.
you if we
Yeah.
have a look at Katerina's
Sure.
development and just do some playing? What have you got in your book? That's very good.
Who's in your book, Katerina?
Who's that? You don't know. It's a girl though, isn't it? And you can see what's on the next page. Good. So you turn those pages very nicely.
Could you guys first see the video just now? Guys?
Yeah, we could see and we can hear.
Guys?
Hello? Hello?
Yasin, Hasanah, dengar tak tadi?
Dengar.
Dengar.
Doctor,
Dengar.
can you hear us?
Guys?
Can you hear
Hello.
us,
Hi.
Doctor?
Hello.
Hello?
Guys?
Ya, doktor.
Was there sound from the video?
Yes, we could hear and we can see. Can you hear us? Doctor, you cannot hear us. Sekejap.
Guys, I need somebody to answer me. I can't hear you.
Wait, Yasin, can you text Doctor?
Hello.
Yasin, we'll text Doctor.
Okay. Okay, I'll do it again now. Just watch that video and then we're done now.
Okay. Hello, Katerina. My name's Emma. I'm one of the doctors. Is this your mum that you've got with you behind you? Is that your mum? Is it okay with you if we have a look at Katerina's
Sure.
development and just do some playing? What have you got in your book? That's very good.
Who's in your book, Katerina?
Who's that? I don't know. It's a girl though, isn't it? And you can see what's on the next page. Good. So you turn those pages very nicely. What about some colours? Can you tell me that colour? Ah, did you say green? Well done. What can you see in this picture? Don't know. Okay. What colour's that one? Blue. Well done. Let's see what's on the next page. Good girl. Okay. And I think this is a monkey. Do you think it's a monkey?
No.
No. What colour's that one?
Red.
Red. Okay. Good girl. What can you see now? What's this one? It's green. And what kind of animal is it? You don't know. I think it might be a frog. Can you see the frog on this page?
Yes.
Yes, well done. Good girl. That was very good. Well, then we're nearly at the end. Can you see the frog on these pages?
Yeah.
Well done. And can you see any other animals? Do you know what this one is?
No.
Well done. You're good with your animals, aren't you? Where's the snake on this page?
Yeah.
Good girl. Well done. What colour is this t-shirt?
Pink.
Yes, well done. Do you know what this thing is?
That's right.
It's red, yes, you're right. Good. Do you think, Katerina, you could give the book to Mummy? Could you show me giving the book to Mummy and then we'll have a look at this one?
No.
Yeah, can you give this book to Mummy? Okay, you don't have to.
Can you give me the
that's
book?
No.
Why not? Why don't you do some playing with other stuff? You give me the book.
fine. Actually, we've got some really exciting things in the bag. Can you give the book to Mummy? Okay.
Go on, Katerina.
Katerina, I've got some bricks I'd
Thank
like to
you.
show you. What do you do with those?
No.
Have you ever seen those before? I'll show you what we can do. We can make a really big tower. I'm going to get some more. Ah, you've seen my string. Okay, what can you do with that? Okay, so I can see that you can hold that very well. Good girl. Oh, and you wish we had some beads. You might have seen some beads. Well, look, Katerina, we can make a really big tower. Can you do one of those? Oops. I have to start again. What can you make with those? Oh, have you done a bridge before? That's a little bit like a bridge. Should we try just a tower first? Let's see. Ooh, very good. That's very good. Katerina, can I show you something with these? Can you make them so they've got a little gap in like that, so that we can have a train? It goes choo 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 choo. You can go through the bridge. Can you make one like that? Yeah, it's very similar to your other ones, but we need a little gap so the train can go through the bridge. Oh, you can't get through. That's it. Oh, nearly. Good girl. Need a little gap for the train. Well done. Okay, that's very good. And I'll show you one more thing. We'll see. Ooh, okay, what would you like to do? That's really nearly a bridge for our train, isn't it? Can you make a gap for the train? Make a gap for my train. Okay. Good. I'm going to show you one other thing with my bricks and then we'll do some crayons. Okay, I can see you've got your eye on the crayons. Oh, wait a second. Look, if you take that one away. Okay. Okay. And we can see how tall can you make that then? Maybe we could borrow these ones and you could put those on top of the other ones. Good. Make it really tall this side. Well done. What about if you borrow some of these and you can make an even taller one here? Put that one on top. Good. Well done. Try another one. Well done. That's 9, isn't it? That's 10. Oh my goodness, that's 11 bricks. Well done. Do you want to knock it all down? Oh, come. Well done. That was a very, very good tower. Okay. Katerina, can you do some drawing?
Yeah.
You're going to show me what you can do. I'll take the bricks away and tidy them up for you. You're going to show me what you can do with this. Thank you. Good girl. Ooh. Very nice. Good girl. And what about, can you do one like this? scribble like that. It's harder for you, don't we? Okay. Katerina, that'd be better. Thank you. Katerina, can you copy that one for me? Can you show me that one? Well done. And then what about this one? See that one? Can you copy that one? Good girl. Okay. Then we'll do one more. Really. Can you copy that one? You can use that colour if you want. No, that's a bit of a light colour, I think. What about this one? Too hard. Okay. Can you copy that one for me? Can you have a go at that one? Not these ones, this one. Okay. Good. Well done. That's fine. You did really well. That was really good. Now, Katerina, I think you can probably run around quite a lot. Do you think you could show me some running and jumping? Show me some walking to start with. Shall we do it together?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Like her, we can do like she is.
Yeah.
Can you show your jumping?
Maybe.
Show your jumping?
Oh my goodness, jumping already. That's brilliant. That is excellent jumping. Okay, good. And now, that's sitting down. What about standing on one foot, Katerina? Like this. You do this, just in one place. Good girl. Well done. And can you do the other side?
Yeah.
I won't let you fall over, don't worry. You just stand on this leg. Ooh. You have another go. Don't kick mummy. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this crayon. You've done it for me already. Well, I wanted to see you bend down and pick something up, so that was brilliant. Now, can you give the snail to mummy? You could give that. Good girl. And now.
Mummy,
Yeah.
it's got holes.
It's got holes. What do you think the holes are for?
The whole thing.
They're for string, aren't they?
Oh, hang on. You could show us that if you want to try putting the string through. I didn't realise that. This is quite tricky, isn't it? Choose one and then see what you can do. Well done. Ooh. You can put it back through another. Ooh. Maybe if we tie a knot in the end for you, that will help. Oh, can you tie knots? It's a bit hard, isn't it? There you go. Why don't you try again putting that end through the hole? Perhaps while she's doing that, I could ask you some questions. So in terms of Katerina's feeding, what kind of things will she do with eating? Will she feed herself?
She feeds herself with a fork.
A fork, okay, great. And does she use a knife at all or not yet? Okay, and in terms of nappies, is she dry during the day?
She's dry day and night.
And nights, okay, brilliant. And when she's around other children, how does she tend to interact with them?
Nicely. She shares and she's quite...
Busy.
She plays with them.
Okay, so with them. And do you ever see her pretending to be things?
Yes.
So imagining to be a princess, for example?
Yes.
She will do that, okay. And I've obviously heard a little bit of her speech today. It sounds like she's probably got quite a few words that I haven't heard. Are you able to estimate at all how many words that she will use?
Well, definitely more than 100. I'd say maybe a couple of hundred, and she's putting words of 4 or 5 words together in a sentence.
Okay, brilliant. And have you ever had any concerns about her vision or hearing?
No.
And did she pass her baby hearing test in the
She did.
hospital?
She was quite slow to speak, so 1.5.
Look at that.
Okay, guys. I can't hear you guys again. Hey guys. Okay. So that's the video.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is basically the child is normal at 3 years old, but that's basically how you would do a developmental assessment. Okay. You just go with the flow. And then you observe what you can while trying to do it in a relatively systematic way. Okay? I think that's enough for today. Any questions? Not last question before your class with Dr. Musa.
No, all
Right?
good.
No, huh?
All good.
Okay. Good. Bye, guys. Sorry for the technical. Sorry for the technical problems. Okay, bye.
It's okay. It's fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Give you the link. Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.